Right now, as you watch this video, over 300 massive oil tankers are sitting completely paralyzed in the waters of the Middle East. They are not moving. They are not loading. They are trapped. 1/5 of the entire global energy supply has been taken off the board overnight. Did you check the price at the pump this morning? If you live in Corona, California, you are already paying $5 a gallon. If you live in the Midwest, you are watching the numbers tick up every single day. But what you are seeing at your local gas station is just a tiny ripple from a massive financial tsunami that is currently building off the coast of Dubai. 3 commercial cargo vessels were struck just hours ago by unknown projectiles. One of them is still burning as we speak. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow choke point just 21 miles across, is effectively closed for business. Energy analysts are quietly sounding the alarm that we could see crude oil prices explode to $150 a barrel within weeks. This is not just an energy crisis. This is a direct tax on everything you own, everything you eat, and everywhere you travel. You are being forced to pay the price for a geopolitical chess game you never agreed to play. Wall Street insiders are already repositioning their portfolios while the average American is told to just weather the storm. And the terrifying part is that the politicians in Washington know exactly what is happening. They are watching the same data feeds we are, yet they are choosing to let your purchasing power burn to the ground. But gas prices are just the visible symptom of a much deeper rot. To understand why your wallet is being drained, you have to look up at the skies over the Middle East and do some very simple, very brutal math. We are told by the mainstream media that the United States military is projecting absolute dominance. They call it Operation Epic Fury. But let us peel back the propaganda and look at the actual accounting. Modern conflict is no longer about who has the biggest aircraft carrier. It is an accounting war. It is an economic war. Right now, the United States is firing advanced Patriot missiles to shoot down incoming aerial threats. Do you know how much a single Patriot missile costs the American taxpayer? $4 million. And do you know how much the drone it is shooting down costs? Roughly $35,000. Let that sink in for a moment. We are spending $4 million to destroy a target that costs less than a loaded pickup truck. This is the definition of asymmetric warfare, and it is bankrupting us in real time. For every $1 million our adversaries spend, we are forced to burn hundreds of millions just to maintain the status quo. You cannot win a financial war of attrition when your enemy is fighting with cheap, mass-produced technology, and you are fighting with bespoke multi-million-dollar weapons. Military commanders know this. The defense contractors making billions certainly know this, but the average citizen footing the bill is kept completely in the dark. Every time you hear about a successful interception on the evening news, you should not be cheering. You should be asking how many schools, roads, or hospitals could have been funded with the money that just exploded in the sky. And while we bleed capital abroad, you have to ask yourself, what exactly is the ultimate goal here? More than 5,000 airstrikes have been launched in the region. 5,000. Entire weapons depots have been leveled. Yet the conflict continues to escalate. A naval warship was recently sunk thousands of miles away off the coast of Sri Lanka. Hotels and energy facilities around the Gulf are taking direct hits. The strategy coming out of the Oval Office seems to rely entirely on bombing the opposition into absolute submission. But history and basic game theory tell us that when an adversary is backed into a corner without a diplomatic off-ramp, they do not surrender. They disperse. They resort to guerrilla tactics. They disrupt global shipping lanes because they know that is the Achilles heel of the Western economy. International law experts are pointing out that this preemptive action lacks a clear foundation under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. But forget the legal arguments for a second and look at the practical reality. We are engaged in an open-ended conflict with no defined exit strategy. The president recently stated he is not ready to make a deal just yet. But how long can the American economy sustain this pause? Every day that passes without a diplomatic resolution is another day that global supply chains remain fractured. We are projecting the illusion of absolute power abroad while our domestic foundation crumbles. Because while billions of dollars flow seamlessly to the military-industrial complex, the situation back home in the United States is rapidly deteriorating into absolute chaos. Let us shift our focus from the Persian Gulf to your local airport. Have you seen the footage of the security lines this week? Thousands of spring break travelers stranded sleeping on the floors of major transit hubs. Why? Because the Department of Homeland Security is effectively shut down. The very people tasked with keeping the homeland safe, the Transportation Security Administration workers, are being forced to work without pay. Think about the profound absurdity of this situation. The government can instantly authorize unlimited funds to drop precision bombs halfway across the world, but it cannot find the money to pay the men and women guarding our own infrastructure. Airline chief executive officers are begging Congress to end the shutdown because it is crippling domestic commerce. Yet members of Congress are still collecting their salaries. They are dining at high-end restaurants in Washington while federal workers are looking for food banks to feed their families. This is not just a political failure. This is a deliberate misallocation of national resources. It sends a very clear message to the working class of America. Your financial security is the lowest priority. If a domestic system breaks down, you are expected to endure the pain. But if a defense contractor needs another contract, the checkbook is wide open. This disconnect between the ruling class and the working class is reaching a boiling point. And just when you think the government is trying to fix the deficit, we uncover what they are actually doing behind closed doors. You have probably heard about the new Department of Government Efficiency. They promised to slash the budget and bring financial sanity back to Washington. But recent video depositions from former staffers have exposed the absolute farce behind this initiative. Under oath, these staffers admitted they were using artificial intelligence programs like ChatGPT to blindly cut funding from arts programs and diversity initiatives. They bragged about saving $150 billion. Now, $150 billion sounds like a lot of money to you and me. But in the context of a federal deficit that exceeds $2 trillion, it is mathematically insignificant. It is equivalent to skipping a cup of coffee to pay off a massive mortgage while simultaneously buying a luxury sports car every single day. They are using these highly publicized cuts to distract you. It is a brilliant public relations stunt designed to make you feel like the adults are back in the charge. But the structural issues, the massive defense spending, the interest on the national debt, the unfunded liabilities, none of that is being touched. The wealthy architects of these policies do not feel the sting of inflation. They do not stand in unpaid security lines. They fly private. They live in gated communities. They are completely insulated from the economic shockwaves they are creating. And those shockwaves are about to hit your local grocery store. Let us connect the dots between the blocked shipping lanes in the Middle East and your weekly grocery bill. It is not just crude oil sitting on those trapped ships. The Middle East is a massive exporter of fertilizers and the chemical precursors needed for modern agriculture. When those ships do not move, fertilizer prices skyrocket. When fertilizer prices skyrocket, the American farmer has to pay more to grow the exact same crop. Who do you think absorbs that extra cost? You do. The consumer always pays the final bill. We are already seeing reports that airfare bookings have surged anywhere from 15 to 57%, simply because jet fuel is becoming scarce and expensive. This is the textbook definition of stagflation. The economy is slowing down because commerce is choked, but prices are going up because supply is restricted. You are getting squeezed from both sides. Your wages are buying less, while the cost of basic survival is demanding more. This is why official inflation reports always seem to conflict with your actual lived reality. The government strips out food and energy costs to give you a core inflation number that looks acceptable. But you do not live in a core inflation world. You live in the real world, where you have to heat your home, fuel your car, and feed your children. And in the real world, the warning lights on the economic dashboard are flashing bright red. So, what is the master plan to fix the broken supply chain? The president has publicly called on our international allies to step up and help reopen the key waterways, but look around. It is crickets. Nobody is stepping up. We are standing completely alone on the global stage. Why? Because for years the United States has weaponized tariffs, alienated historical allies, and treated international diplomacy as a zero-sum game. We told the world we did not need them. Now, when we actually need coalition support to secure a vital economic artery, those same nations are looking the other way. They are doing their own risk assessments. They know that joining this coalition means inviting retaliation against their own domestic infrastructure. So they are letting the United States carry the full financial and military burden. We are acting as the unpaid security guard for the entire global economy, while our own citizens bear the cost. This isolation is dangerous. A nation that attempts to police the world without the backing of a unified coalition will eventually bankrupt itself. History is littered with the ruins of empires that expanded their military footprint far beyond their economic capacity to sustain it. We are ignoring the lessons of history, and we are repeating the exact same fatal mistakes. While the media keeps your eyes glued to the foreign conflict, they are completely ignoring the domestic crises unfolding right under our noses. Massive storm systems are bringing catastrophic blizzard conditions and tornadoes across the Midwest. Millions of people are under severe weather alerts. Dozens of highways are paralyzed with spinouts and crashes. Down south, intense dust storms are ripping through communities. In Hawaii, there is a mysterious outbreak of histoplasmosis, making dozens of people violently ill, a fungal infection stirred up by unchecked construction and soil disruption. These are real immediate threats to American lives and property. But where is the federal response? Where is the endless stream of funding to rebuild our communities? It does not exist because the nation is distracted. We are pouring our resources into foreign sands while our own soil turns against us. Infrastructure requires maintenance. Emergency response requires robust funding. Public health requires attention. When a government becomes so obsessed with foreign dominance that it neglects the basic safety and prosperity of its own citizens, a structural collapse is not just possible, it is inevitable. You are watching a real-time demonstration of a society prioritizing the appearance of strength over the reality of resilience. So, the ultimate question becomes, how do you survive this? If you are waiting for a politician to save you, you have already lost the game. In an era where economic outcomes are dictated by sudden geopolitical strikes and backdoor monetary policies, traditional financial advice is dead. When the government refuses to balance the budget and chooses instead to print more money to fund endless operations, the purchasing power of your cash will continue to melt away. Institutional money, the smart money, is already moving. They are looking at hard assets. They are looking at energy commodities. They are positioning themselves in sectors that benefit from scarcity. If 20% of the world energy supply remains offline, those who control domestic production will hold all the leverage. You need to start thinking like an institutional investor. Stop looking at your wealth in terms of dollar amounts and start looking at it in terms of purchasing power. How are you hedging against sustained inflation? Are you completely exposed to fragile supply chains? The middle class is being systematically wiped out by stealth inflation. Do not let your hard-earned wealth become collateral damage in a war you cannot control. Educate yourself on alternative assets and secure your financial perimeter before the next shockwave hits. What we are witnessing is the ultimate domino effect. A failed diplomatic strategy leads to a blocked waterway. A blocked waterway leads to surging energy costs. Surging energy costs lead to domestic inflation and paralyzed supply chains. And a paralyzed government refuses to pay its own workers while sending billions abroad. This is the reality of the American economy right now. They want you distracted. They want you arguing over trivial political theater so you do not look at the ledger. But the numbers do not lie. The wealth of the working class is being aggressively transferred to the upper echelons of the military and financial elite. Here at this channel, we do not deal in hope. We deal in facts. We read the fine print so you do not have to. If you are tired of being manipulated by mainstream narratives and want to stay ahead of the curve, you know what to do. Protect your wealth, question the narrative, and never stop demanding the truth. We will be watching the markets and the skies very closely. Stay sharp out there.